All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. We got our first film session for the conference finals. We're going to be covering Eastern Conference Finals Game 1, Boston versus Indiana, primarily focusing on different defensive adjustments that Boston can make to do a better job of guarding the Pacers in Game 2. As we talked about last night, it's kind of like the perfect like the best case scenario for the Boston Celtics, right? Like they get one in the win column, but they play poorly enough to lose, and a lot of really interesting stuff in film that they can take to Game 2 in terms of trying to have a better effort on the defensive end of the floor. As I said last night, I expect Boston to win Game 2 and to win more comfortably, in large part because I think they're going to notice a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today. Without any further ado, before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at @JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. And then keep dropping mailbag questions in those YouTube comments so we can keep hitting them throughout the rest of the postseason. All right, let's talk some basketball. So what I'm going to do, we're going to focus on two different areas of defensive adjustments for the Boston Celtics, starting with the botched switches that they were struggling with at various points throughout the game. Just kind of go over some specific fundamental things that they can do better. And then we're going to turn towards ball screen defense. I'm going to show you guys a bunch of examples of where it went wrong for Boston. And then we're going to go look at three different things that Boston can do to do a better job of guarding and pick and roll as they head into Game 2. All right, let's get into it. So I want to start with the botched switches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some examples. This was during these next two clips were both, these next three clips were all during that 9-0 run that Indiana had. This 9-0 run in the late third quarter lasted just 2 minutes and turned a 13-point game into a 4-point game, effectively turning a game that Boston was quickly kind of turning into a blowout into a game that Indiana had an opportunity to win. So I want to kind of go over where that went wrong. This first one was a situation where Jaylen Brown in particular was way too concerned with staying glued up on Obi Toppin when this kind of screening action had been getting switched throughout the rest of the game. So I want you guys to kind of see the confusion that takes place with the ball and player movement. So again, pin down, right? When we get this pin down, we're going to get a switch. Pritchard is guarding TJ McConnell. Hauser is guarding Ben Shepherd. Here's our switch, right? Here comes another dribble handoff. Obi Toppin is not enough of a threat for Jaylen Brown to be glued up on him. But there's clearly some kind of miscommunication between Hauser where he thinks Jaylen Brown is switching, but he doesn't. So as a result, Hauser has no urgency to meet TJ back on the opposite side of the screen, and Jaylen Brown is making no attempt to cut TJ McConnell off. So TJ McConnell is able to quickly just turn the corner. By the time Hauser recognizes it, he's out of position, and TJ is able to get all the way to the basket. A lot of like 2- and 3-man actions like that generated some confusion for Boston's defense. Again, if you watch it in full speed, you could see it's just a lot going on in a short period of time that causes the confusion. It's like quick pass up, down screen, switch, dribble handoff. Are we switching? Wait, no, we're not. Oh, wait, TJ McConnell's already downhill going towards the rim. This next one is a wild example. I talked last night about how it just kind of seemed like Indiana was just going as fast as humanly possible with their ball and player movement to make things as confusing as possible. In this sequence here, from the 20-second mark on the shot clock to the 14-second mark on the shot clock. So in a 6-second span, you're going to see Indiana set 4 different screens and in the process cause confusion that leads to a layup. Let's watch this first screen here set by Siakam on Jrue Holiday. They don't switch that one. Then they rescreen back on the opposite side. They don't switch that one. We get a dribble pitch to Nesmith. This ends in a switch. Nesmith comes down, dribble pitch to Siakam, and Jrue Holiday and Al Horford have confusion over whether or not that's a screen or a switch, and as a result, Siakam's able to turn the corner. Again, if you watch this in full speed, watch how fast all 4 of these screens take place in the live speed. Watch this. We get, come on now, you can do this. There we go. Screen, dribble pitch, screen, dribble pitch, screen. It just all happens so fast and it breeds confusion. And so for there, it's really this simple. Lots of communication and being in an athletic stance ready to gather a player that's coming at you full speed. Because the second piece of this is, let's say that Jrue Holiday is switching here. I talked about this last night. One of the hardest things about switching is when this defender switches on to this guy. Typically, Siakam's moving full speed. He's already got a running start going this way, whereas Jrue Holiday has his momentum going this way. So there are opportunities to quickly turn the corner against switches, even when they do switch properly, just because this guy is moving. His entire momentum is going the opposite direction of the direction he needs to go to cut off Siakam. But as you can see here, just all of that rapid ball and player movement, and the simple fact that Horford's trying not to switch. So there's one guy in the mix who's trying not to switch in a group of guys that's switching everything else. And it's all happening so fast that it leads to confusion. And on this play, Jrue Holiday should probably know that or Al Horford is expecting it to be a switch when Al Horford has not been switching that screen, right? When we come back to the beginning of this possession, watch here. Horford is on Siakam. Doesn't switch. Doesn't switch. So Jrue Holiday's impression here is that Horford's not switching any screen that involves Siakam, and that probably is the game plan. And generally speaking, throughout the game, that's what Boston was doing. Switching 1 through 4, running drop with Al Horford or Luke Cornett or whoever was at the 5. And so that is the confusion here. It's all happening so fast. And then Horford randomly, after not switching the last two, decides to switch this one. Jrue Holiday is like, what the hell, dude? I thought you weren't switching. And by the time they recognize what happened, Siakam already gets downhill. So again, as you can see, it's just a lot of ball and player movement, breeding chaos, breeding confusion in the Boston switching scheme. And again, from Boston's perspective, just better communication, being in an athletic stance, ready to move quickly when those changes of direction take place during the switch. This is an example of a passive switch in transition. What a passive switch is, it's where you switch without aggressive ball pressure, right? So I want you to watch it live first, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So Jaylen Brown effectively is switching, is handing off Obi Toppin onto Peyton Pritchard, which is going to put Jaylen Brown onto Aaron Nesmith. Jrue Holiday is on TJ McConnell, but we get this dribble pitch here. And what I mean by passive switch is Jrue Holiday switching onto Aaron Nesmith, but without ball pressure. He's switching, dropping back in this particular case. But again, even if you wanted to be aggressive and contest this shot, the problem is, watch Jrue Holiday's momentum in this entire transition possession, backpedaling. He's moving backwards. Whereas Nesmith is coming at him and trying to take a 3 right here. By the time he actually gets the chance to stop his momentum and start moving forward, Aaron Nesmith is already rising up into the jumper. Again, switching can solve a lot of problems by getting in front of screening actions, but it creates different problems, like problems on the offensive glass. It causes problems with your with giving up dribble penetration when guys don't have their defensive positioning properly. We just talked about the confusion that can arise when you have 2 and 3 man screening actions that happen quickly. So again, it opens up a different set of execution issues, and Boston just didn't have a good night with their switching defense. That's something they'll have to improve. Here are a couple here are 2 additional ones that I'll show you guys really quick. Here's another passive switch with Obi Toppin. So as you guys can see here, we're going to go to Siakam. Siakam's being guarded by Jrue Holiday. Jayson Tatum's guarding Obi Toppin. We get a dribble pitch, but again, on the dribble pitch, Tatum is now worried about Siakam, right? And now Jrue Holiday's responsibility is Obi Toppin. But because Jrue Holiday is so far back, Obi Toppin knows Tatum's not going to close out on me. My man is now over here. And so he just kind of sits right in that backside and pops a 3-point shot. And again, you can see Jrue Holiday notice it. It's just a hesitation. And that's the thing, like these switches. And if you go back to the beginning of the game, that opening stretch when Boston went up 12-0, a big part of it was they were aggressive switches. They were on this play. Siakam would throw this dribble pitch, and in the opening few possessions of the game, Jrue Holiday would just be up here already. He'd be coming aggressive up on the catch to apply ball pressure. And so that's the thing. It's about sustained effort and sustained physicality, sustained aggressiveness in those switches to prevent these easy opportunities where they can kind of capitalize on that. This is what I'm talking about with that little gap in the switch between where Jrue Holiday actually gets up on the ball. Jrue Holiday is delayed there because he is focused on Siakam. Oh shit, Toppin's my man now, and he already has the ball at the top of the key. We got one more. This was the what I thought was the best example of the chaotic ball and player movement for Indiana. So let's get up the floor here. This is absolutely crazy. Watch how much ball and player movement we get in this sequence. We're at 20 seconds on the shot clock. Let me see when it actually starts here. I think it gets swung up. Okay, so by the time we get to the first action, there's 15 on the shot clock. Watch how much ball and player movement we get over this time period, right? So Hauser's guarding TJ McConnell. Jrue Holiday is guarding Pascal Siakam. Al Horford is guarding Obi Toppin. Now, when Siakam goes to set the screen, Jrue Holiday's thinking switch, right? So he starts to get up into this gap to switch. But then Pascal Siakam slips out of the screen. So when he slips out of the screen, Jrue Holiday goes, oh shit, I got to stay on Pascal Siakam. So he recovers back, right? So now Jrue Holiday's back on Pascal Siakam. Toppin sets a really good screen on Hauser. And so as a result, Horford has to switch on to McConnell, right? So here's our new matchups. As we got through that switching sequence, now Jrue Holiday is on Pascal Siakam, Al Horford is on TJ McConnell, and Hauser is on Obi Toppin. Peyton Pritchard is on Ben Shepherd. But TJ McConnell notices that Peyton Pritchard has relaxed and is not in a good defensive stance. He is facing completely away from his man. He's standing upright. He's not in position to move quickly. So TJ McConnell throws a swing pass to Ben Shepherd. All of a sudden, Peyton Pritchard's like, oh shit, there's a guy attacking a closeout, right? So he closes out hard, but because he's out of position, he doesn't get a good closeout, and so Ben Shepherd is able to easily drive past him. Now it's another chaotic kind of switching situation. Jrue Holiday is guarding Pascal Siakam. Hauser's guarding Toppin, but Jrue Holiday sees Siakam flash up here to the high post, and Hauser's like, I have to take Ben Shepherd now because Peyton Pritchard is compromised. So Hauser steps on to Ben Shepherd, and now we have a new decision here. Because Jrue Holiday sees if Hauser's going to step up on Shepherd, who's going to guard Toppin? Like, I can't guard Siakam because Toppin is standing right wide open under the basket. Watch that decision in slow motion here really quick. As Jrue Holiday's on Siakam, we get the swing pass. Watch Jrue as soon as Hauser goes in to help. He goes, I need to follow Siakam. Oh, wait, no, I need to stay on Toppin, right? But then Ben Shepherd ends up finding this opening for Siakam and throws it. Now both Jrue Holiday and Peyton Pritchard have to make a decision, right? Pritchard's like, oh shit, this guy's wide open. So he closes out at Siakam. Jrue Holiday goes, oh shit, Pascal Siakam is wide open. So he closes out to Siakam. So they both go to Siakam. And as a result, Obi Toppin is wide open underneath the basket. And they get a wide open layup. All of that took place. Look at that. 8 seconds on the shot clock. That entire sequence took place in like 6 or 7 seconds. And they get a wide open layup. So now I'm going to run the whole thing in full speed again so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. Watch how quickly all of this happens. We get the double screen, the slip from Siakam. We come off the screen, pitch back, drive the closeout, flash, drop off to Toppin. That rapid ball and player movement takes advantage of the chaos and how difficult it is to communicate in switches in those situations. But here's the thing. This is where I talk about the effort and communication part of it. This part right here, where Jrue Holiday, Peyton Pritchard are trying to figure out how to guard Toppin and Siakam, that part is really difficult. It's just really difficult in the instantaneous circumstances, like split-second decisions to get that right. Where this possession goes wrong is Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard just has to do a better job when TJ McConnell gets into the lane there. He needs to, if he wants to help, if he wants to sink into the lane and help, he needs to be sitting at this hash mark right here in a low athletic stance where he can see Ben Shepherd and see TJ McConnell at the same time. If he does that, then he can throw a good closeout. If he throws a good closeout, he can flatten out this drive more towards the baseline or more towards the top of the key. And if he does, then you don't have to have this aggressive help from Sam Hauser coming off of this block here. This play falls apart because Peyton Pritchard relaxes for a second. So again, in that chaos, it's about being really dialed in, really focused, communicating everything in an athletic stance, prepared for rapid ball and player movement. That's not a schematic thing. That's just an effort and execution thing. So I think that's going to be a big thing that they're going to be hammering home on tape over the course of the rest of today and tomorrow morning as they prep for game 2. We're this close to crowning a new NBA champ, and with the action heating up on the court, it's even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. There's only so many games left, and DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. Don't miss out, or you'll have to wait until next NBA season to place your bets. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your squad, and place your first bet. It's that simple. The championship odds right now, as we head into the conference finals, according to DraftKings, Boston's at -150, the Timberwolves at +275, the Mavericks at +500, and the Indiana Pacers, a long shot, at +2,500. New to DraftKings, listen up. New customers can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,500. Just deposit at least $5, and you'll get a bonus bet back equal to your first bet if it doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get a no-sweat bet up to $1,500 if your first bet doesn't hit. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. On that note, let's move into the ball screen defense stuff. All right, we're going to start with Luke Kornet's struggles dealing with Miles Turner coming downhill at him towards the rim. Okay, so as you can see, we're in a basic ball screen here on the left side of the floor. Derek White is chasing over the top, right? So our bracket coverage here is Kornet in the drop, Derek White chasing over the top. Kornet has no roller behind responsibilities. What that means is he is in charge of stopping Tyrese Haliburton on the drive and stopping Miles Turner on the roll. This is the importance of having a ball screen defender, a big, strong athlete that can, in a drop coverage, you have to have a certain amount of size and athleticism to contend with two bodies coming downhill towards you at the same time. And the main issue that the Celtics were having is Turner is just so much bigger and more athletic than Kornet that when he would catch, there was just nothing that Kornet could do with him at the rim. So again, he kind of stunts up to force Haliburton to give up the basketball, but by the time he recovers to Turner, like he's already dead to rights here. Kornet's underneath the basket inside the restricted area. Turner is able to easily just go up through him and get into the basket. Same exact thing here. Fast forward a little bit. This time it's Andrew Nembhard. They're going to run what's called a stack pick and roll. Now, as we know, stack pick and roll, all it is as Nembhard comes off the screen, Haliburton is going to try to back screen Kornet to generate an opening for Miles Turner. But he doesn't actually set a good pick. So as a result, Turner kind of rolls clean. And there's a little bit of congestion here with Derek White and Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton's going to relocate here to the top of the key. Same exact coverage for Kornet, though. He is in no roller behind coverage. He has to stop Nembhard coming this way and Turner coming this way. Shows a little bit on Nembhard by the time he recovers to Turner. Again, once again, dead to rights, 2 feet inside the restricted area as Miles Turner is coming at him with a bunch of momentum, and he easily finishes over the top. Last one, exact same thing. And some of this is just Miles Turner is really damn good because Miles Turner can catch and finish with like dunks anywhere inside the foul line. He's just an outrageous athlete. Exact same type of coverage here. Derek White chases over the top. Turner slips. Kornet is up high because Haliburton is a skill guard that can cause problems there. But watch how Turner can catch 2 feet literally at the elbow and just rise up and dunk. And Kornet is just completely physically overmatched with Turner coming downhill at him. So again, the main issue they're having in that specific matchup is they can't do anything with Turner coming downhill at Kornet. Now let's talk about Al Horford. Now, Al Horford was specifically struggling with Tyrese Haliburton and foot speed. So again, Miles Turner is going to set a screen here on the right side. Same exact type of coverage. This time, though, Derek White ducks underneath the pick, and we get a very useful old man trick from Miles Turner. You're allowed to roll to the basket, right? And if Derek White's going to go underneath the pick, he can roll. And now he's just in his way. It's effectively a legal moving screen because all he's doing is picking and rolling to the basket. Derek White tried to spin off the pick into Miles Turner's space. As a result, Turner basically gets to throw a block. That's just like a savvy kind of veteran trick for a screen and roll big. But once again, the main issue here is in these ball screens, Tyrese Haliburton coming over the top is going to tax Al Horford's ability to guard out on the perimeter. So Haliburton just easily steps into a pull-up three here. You're going to see another example here on the next clip. So this one is not an actual on-ball screen, but it's the exact same coverage. So this is it's an off-ball high drop coverage. So imagine if Tyrese Haliburton had the ball here. He doesn't, but imagine if he did. He would dribble off this way. Derek White would chase. Al Horford would be in a drop, right? It's the exact same concept. It just ran through a flare screen and a pass rather than through an actual on-the-ball dribbling ball screen, right? So Nembhard throws the pass. It's the exact same coverage, right? Derek White's chasing. So now just imagine if Tyrese Haliburton was dribbling to this point. That's really all it is. But Horford, once again, is in this predicament where he has to guard. By the way, this is after Boston had already made the switch. This was actually the first possession of the game where they moved Tatum onto Miles Turner. They move Tatum onto Miles Turner so that they don't run the action through Turner. They run it through Siakam instead, right? But now Horford is in charge of both of them, right? But here's the problem. It's Horford on an island in space trying to guard this super fast guard that can hit pull-up jumpers, and Tyrese Haliburton just easily rises into a 15-footer. The main issues that Horford was having was dealing with both Haliburton in his speed on the perimeter as well as the roll man. Let's fast forward a little bit here. This one, he ends up giving up a layup. We're going to fast forward. I think he pulls this out. Get back. Okay, so here's our ball screen. Fast forward a little bit. Okay, so here's our ball screen. We have Turner setting the screen on Tatum. Tatum is on Haliburton. Horford, once again, is in this like kind of no roller behind coverage with Turner and Haliburton. So Haliburton is now getting downhill. And Horford's responsibility is to guard Haliburton coming downhill and Turner. But what happens is he gets caught in no man's land because he has to be in two places at once. And he ends up making a poor decision to kind of lean back towards Turner. And Haliburton just goes all the way to the basket and gets an easy left-handed layup. So again, with Horford specifically, the issue was handling him in space, right? With Cornette in particular, the problem was Turner's athleticism coming downhill towards him at the rim. But both guys were really struggling in ball screens for different reasons. So as we know, at the end of the game, the adjustment was, let's move Al Horford onto Pascal Siakam. That way, Pascal Siakam is not shooting the ball nearly as well from three as Miles Turner is. Al Horford is a famously good on an island, big forward scorer defender because he can anticipate, slide his feet, beat guys to spots. He's done it to Joel Embiid over the years. Like he just has a gift for this type of archetype of big scoring forward, right? But the problem was, Siakam started to get going with his mid-range jumper. So you guys will see it's the exact same issue. Siakam ball screen because they're just going to target Horford no matter what. The pop, Horford's there. But this is a straight ISO. And this is good defense, by the way. But Siakam just hits the shot, right? Exact same thing on the next possession. They get a ball screen. This time it's with Nembhard. Fight over the top. Horford contains the ball, recovers to Siakam. But Siakam's comfortable moving there at the high post, right? So one of the things I talked about in the series preview, like I said, is like I would start by moving Al Horford over to Siakam. But one of the things I specifically talked about in the series preview was, if Siakam gets going, what do you do, right? And this is where I want to go over some key adjustments that they can use going into game two. I'll start. I'm going to skip ahead. Let's do, the Nesmith bit first. So the easy counter here, you could easily just put Al Horford on Aaron Nesmith. What that means is now I have Jaylen Brown on Siakam. So any Siakam ball screen, I can switch. I have Jayson Tatum on Miles Turner. So any Turner ball screen, I can switch. I have Drew Holiday on Andrew Nembhard. Any Andrew Nembhard ball screen, I can switch. I can switch all of these ball screens and at least make Siakam or Turner or Nembhard or Haliburton score against an elite defensive player. That to me is these are all matchups that I'm comfortable living with. And again, as far as Nesmith on Horford goes, if Nesmith catches open on the three-point line, he's shooting barely over 30% from three in this postseason. If he's slashing off of the wing, off of the catch, Al Horford's one of his best defensive traits is guessing where a guy is going to drive and picking a good angle and beating him to that spot. If it's crashing the offensive glass, Al Horford is a guy that can beat Nesmith to 50-50 balls with his size advantage. So like this is an example of a situation where I think Horford can be hidden in a place that gives you the least compromised version of your defense, right? Let's say Nesmith sets the screen. By the way, I only picked this clip because this was the only clip in the static non-transition cross match, anything like that. This was the only possession of the game where they just straight up decided to put Horford on Nesmith. And on this play, by the way, Haliburton scores, but he hits like a damn 50, like 35 footer. Like that's a logo 3-pointer. You can't really do much about that shot. So I'm not really calling out this possession in terms of the actual execution. I'm just pointing out like when you put Horford on Nesmith, I think this is your best bet. Now let's talk really quickly about what would happen if Nesmith sets the screen. You run a drop coverage. You run exactly the same drop coverage you've been running, except for you as Horford don't even need to overreact to Nesmith. He's going to pop to the 3-point line, right? All you do is you contain Haliburton so you can be aggressive up at the level, because a lot of these possessions where Horford struggled with Haliburton had a lot to do with the fact that he's concerned about the roll man. So he's not really committing to Haliburton because he's worried about the roll man getting open, right? In this situation, I'd put him on Nesmith. I would not worry about the roll man. I would focus on corralling Haliburton. Once he pitches it back to Nesmith, so let's just say for the sake of argument that we have a ball screen that Haliburton has right here, and Nesmith comes and sets the screen right here. And Haliburton comes off into this area, and Horford corrals him, and Haliburton pitches the ball back, and Nesmith catches here, right? You've got a guy in the corner. This guy can kind of be stunting in this direction to kind of make him a little bit hesitant. But if Horford's over here having corralled Haliburton, all he has to do is close out to like here. If he closes out to like here to contain the drive, you're going to give up a catch and shoot 3 to Nesmith, who hasn't been hitting him. Or if Nesmith drives the closeout, Horford can kind of meet him in this area and corral him. And so, again, that to me is the best matchup example of a way that you can give Horford a better opportunity to hold up in ball screens. Just put him on Nesmith. And by the way, Nesmith was on the floor during those Kornet possessions as well. That's a job that Kornet can do a better job of. Tatum was on the floor in a lot of those clips. Tatum can be on Miles Turner, and you just put Kornet on Aaron Nesmith and do exactly what I just said. Have him basically catch Haliburton or TJ McConnell coming off of those screens, and then to close out into the short corner, like the short elbow area, to contain any sort of closeout attack from Aaron Nesmith. Let's go to 2 other options that they could use to defend better. This first one is just a simple example of better help and recover defense. So if you are going to leave your centers on Miles Turner, you need to offer them more support off the ball. What that means is just this simple setup here, right? So this is classic. This is basically like classic 4-out, 1-in ball screen offense, right? So I've got a guy in the corner, a guy in the corner, a guy in the right wing, guy in the left wing, ball screen gets set, right? When the ball screen gets set, Derek White, once again, is in chase position. Kornet is getting ready to catch Haliburton. As Turner is rolling into this space, look at Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown tags the roller. This baits Haliburton into throwing this skip pass to Aaron Nesmith, because again, Haliburton is always going to make the right read, right? So if you watch Haliburton, as he comes off of this screen, watch Haliburton's eyes. Comes off the ball screen, he immediately looks off to the right, right? As he's looking, he's reading Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown comes down. Haliburton has now decided Jaylen Brown he's making the pass right now. Jaylen Brown is committed to Miles Turner. That's what it looks like. That's the job that Jaylen Brown did with his body language, making it look like he's keyed in on Miles Turner. We get the skip pass. Immediately as the pass is in the air, this has to cover like a solid 30 feet of ground. So while that pass is covering 30 feet, Jaylen Brown can close out. He's a good athlete that can get there in time. Nesmith rises right into a shot, and Jaylen Brown blocks him cleanly, and then manages, as the ball bounces, to save it off of Nesmith out of bounds. So like a really nice defensive play, but if you watch it in full speed, this is just offering better off-ball support in the ball screen. Watch Jaylen Brown in full speed. Here comes our ball screen, chase over the top, tag, recover, block the shot. So again, if you are going to leave your centers on, especially Kornet, because I think they trust Horford a little bit more in some of these perimeter player assignments than they trust Kornet. Specifically with Kornet, if you're going to leave him on Miles Turner, you just have to do a better job helping and recovering on the weak side. One last example of an adjustment that they could go to. This is what's called a pre-switch. We get an offensive rebound tap out for Miles Turner. Ball goes to Haliburton, spread out. Same exact 4-out, 1-in ball screen, right? So we got Shooter in the left corner. Well, TJ McConnell in the left corner. Obi Toppin in the right corner. Aaron Nesmith on the right wing. Turner's going to go set the screen. Now, watch Al Horford. To my knowledge, this was the only time they did this in this game. They send Turner up to set the screen. Look at Al Horford pointing. Al Horford is pointing like, hey, Drew Holiday, you run up and defend the screen as well. All of this has to do with their super versatile defensive personnel. Drew Holiday can guard players bigger than him and smaller than him. Or I should say guards and forwards. Jayson Tatum guards forwards and centers. Jaylen Brown guards forwards, probably centers as well, right? All of this versatility makes this possible, right? So as Turner's going up, now Drew Holiday's running up into the screen. Because Drew Holiday's running up into the screen, they can switch. Because they can switch, now Drew Holiday's on the ball. Derek White is on the roll man now. He recovers to the roll man. And by the way, that wasn't even a very well executed switch, but that is the intent of that possession. If Drew Holiday's quicker, if Drew Holiday actually listens, like if Drew Holiday is aware of what Al Horford's asking about 2 seconds sooner, he's up here with Turner and they don't give up this easy slip. So I'm more talking schematically about what this could look like. This was not very well executed. That said, Derek White, let's fast forward here for a second. Derek White ends up making the defensive play of the playoffs so far. Switches on to Turner. Horford has to step up because of the slip. Obi Toppin is a great vertical spacing threat. We get our lob pass. Look at where this is. Obi Toppin is loading up to dunk. Derek White is still on the ground. The pass is already in the air. Watch Derek White. That is an unbelievable defensive play from Derek White. You know, it's funny too. Every time I see a basketball game that is like decided by a single possession, like this game was decided by a Jaylen Brown pull-up 3 in the left corner, right? That sent it to overtime, right? Anytime I see a basketball game that's decided by a single possession, I always end up thinking back to plays like this. This is a play. You're dead to rights. Right here. Passes up. That's a dunk. That's a dunk 99% of the time. And Derek White erases it with one of the best defensive plays of the playoffs so far. Just an unbelievable defensive play. But going back to what I was talking about earlier, the actual adjustment here is, if you communicate this better, on this back line here, and you're more prepared for it, hey, pre-switch. Look at how long it was before Drew Holiday actually realized what Horford was asking. If you execute that properly and send Drew Holiday up into the ball screen, you can actually switch it, and Derek White will be more aware of the switch coming. Because like one of the issues here is Derek White's chasing over the top. Why is Derek White chasing over the top? He's chasing over the top because he doesn't realize that Horford and Drew Holiday have communicated this pre-switch, right? So Derek White is defending like it's a traditional pick and roll coverage. He's chasing over the top, whereas Drew Holiday is getting ready to switch. So as a result, now we have 2 on the ball, which is what opens up this slip for Turner. Derek White just happens to make a miraculous play to blow it up. But again, when executed properly, Derek White would know the switch is coming, and instead of fighting over, what he would do is, like we talk about leverage, right? The leverage of fighting over the top of the screen is this foot needs to get, boom, right there, over the top of Miles Turner's high side foot in the screen, right? The exact opposite would happen if he knew that a switch was coming. He would have gone underneath and been on the inside of Miles Turner, and then Drew Holiday would have come aggressively out to face Haliburton. The slip would not have been open, and then the new situation would have been static, roughly 8 seconds on the shot clock. Derek White guarding Miles Turner. Miles Turner's not a guy that's going to punish people in the post effectively enough, consistently enough. And Drew Holiday, the original matchup on Tyrese Haliburton, who was there before the offensive rebound led to the cross matches. And then you have Horford on Obi Toppin, which is a matchup that you're willing to live with. So that when executed properly, that will even shut off this slip action here from Miles Turner. So again, in kind of summary, when it comes to the meat and potatoes of the game, they just have to do a much better job in their switching. I would be more aggressive when you switch instead of passive when you switch, because they gave up a lot of 3-point shots by just being on their heels after the switch. And then also in any sort of that chaotic ball and player movement that we talked about, couple of things. One, better communication on the screen, being in an athletic stance so you're prepared to move quickly when the new offensive player is coming screaming at you full speed. And then 3, like we saw in that Peyton Pritchard play, and there was another play that I didn't even put in here that was during the 9-0 run that was a dunk for Pascal Siakam where Jaylen Brown had a bad closeout. But your off-ball players have to be in position to close out and contain the basketball. One good closeout will shut off a driving kick possession. One is all it takes. And there just weren't enough good closeouts in the game. Moving over to the ball screen side of things, again, Kornet's really struggling with Turner coming downhill at him, and Horford's really struggling with Haliburton in space. You can offer support with him there, especially for Kornet, because I think Missoula is going to keep Kornet on Turner. When Kornet's on the floor, you either need to move him onto Aaron Nesmith, like I talked about, or offer better help and recover from the weak side, like we saw in the Jaylen Brown block possession, or pre-switch. Send a guard up with Turner when they go into the screen. Same thing goes when Horford's on the floor. Better weak side help and recover. The pre-switching to keep Horford out of the screens. And once again, I think Nesmith is the guy that you tuck those guys away on when you're trying to find a way to hide them and you have your forwards on the floor. When Siakam and Turner are out there, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum can guard Siakam and Turner and protect your center. So again, big things, better job with your switching, and then just helping support your bigs in ball screens. That should go a long way towards helping the Celtics patch things up in game 2. I expect the Celtics to win comfortably in game 2. We will be going live after the final buzzer of that game on YouTube tomorrow night. I will see you guys then.